So let's talk about greed, because Bitcoin is a thing where it's okay to be greedy, because when you're being greedy, you're also helping others along the way. But let's start with this. Is there such a thing as having enough Bitcoin?
So I want to talk about greed first, because this is a semantic point, but I think it's important, right? That what are the 7 deadly sins again? It's like gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, lust, pride, envy. I think this might be it. Well, so greed is one of the deadly sins. So I want to disambiguate greed from self-interest. Self-interest is wonderful, right? Like, why? You should absolutely be responsible for yourself, take care of yourself, pursue your own ends, build the most valuable business you can, enjoy life, have a family, like pursue your self-interest, do the things you want, live the life of your dreams. Everyone should be on that path. I want that for myself. I want that for everyone. Okay. But what you don't want is for anyone to pursue any of their ends at the expense of someone else, right? So the line here in my mind, between self-interest and greed is consent. You could also call it private property if you want to go back to that term, but we'll stay with consent, right? Someone maybe, really wants a Lamborghini. Okay. If you work hard and save money and you build businesses that help other people and they engage in consensual exchange with you, and you're able to save money over time, and then you go to the Lamborghini dealer and you have another consensual trade, here's my, whatever it is, $250,000, they give you the car. Great. All is well and good. But if you, out of your own desire for a Lamborghini, decide to go and steal that car instead, that is greed. That's where I think you're in the domain of sin. Technically, it's you're unraveling the social fabric, right? If everyone acted that way, there would be no society, basically. Right. So you don't have to get theological or metaphysical about it. It's like, if you do these things, it's what is the rule? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you, and don't do unto others as you would not have them do unto you. The gold and silver rule, I think they call that. It's basically that, right? You wouldn't want someone to steal your Lamborghini, so don't steal the guy's Lamborghini, right? Yeah. And so that is very important, I think, because I don't think there's greed in saving money. That doesn't make you greedy. That makes you prudent. Self-interested, of course, but also prudent, right? You're planning for the future. You're giving yourself more options for future action. There's nothing morally unjust about that.
Right.
But if you accumulate options by stealing from someone else's, pool of options, that is bad, right? That's the line. Consent, private property, however you want to frame it. The second part was, can you have too much Bitcoin? What was it?
Wait, before we jump onto that, I want to ask a follow-up question. So now you're basically saying good to make the distinction between self-interest and greed. And if your definition of being greedy is to take what's not yours and take what's others, like the stealing aspect of it, then there's no such thing as greed in Bitcoin almost, because you're not taking from others, you're in this ecosystem, live and breathe together. But so not morally, it's fine. But from a personal development standpoint, us living our life, can we have too much self-interest to the point that that's not productive? Hence the question: is there such a thing as having enough Bitcoin? Because we see what's going on in this world, and then people say, "Oh, I don't have enough Bitcoin. I can never have enough Bitcoin." And this is a common sentiment we see on Bitcoin Twitter among Bitcoiners. So, do you personally believe that we as individual Bitcoiners can have enough Bitcoin?
Well, my problem with the framing of the question is the we, because again, it's looking at one group of people as if they're a single, indivisible, categorical whole.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
Is there such a thing?
We're acting individuals, right?
Right.
So for you, in your own opinion, for yourself, there may be a number that is enough for you. You might decide, I get X Bitcoin and I'm satisfied.
Right. Yeah,
So it
exactly.
could be true for you that yes, there is a point that you can have enough Bitcoin, while it is at the same time untrue for me. I'm not actually saying this about me, but I could be the guy that's like, no, I can never have enough. I would actually maybe say I'm probably in that category. Actually, like I want to be a net buyer forever. I intend to be a net buyer forever, and I intend to pass as much of it on as I can. Does that mean I won't use it at some point if there's something else? I love to see people building their dreams with Bitcoin. This is something that Jeff Meyer is doing at the farm at Okefenokee. He's a big Bitcoin bull. He's been stacking Bitcoin for a long time, but now he's using some of that Bitcoin to fund his dream. He's building this 1,000-acre community that's food, energy, water independent. Like, fuck yeah. You think I'm going to like shame that guy for selling Bitcoin? It's like, no, you've got your dream, whatever it is, your dream boat, your dream car, your dream house, your dream business. Like, that's what money is for. Money is to give you the options to go and live your life freely and to the maximum, right? I don't believe, people that say never sell your Bitcoin or, shame on you. It's like, what are you doing? That's, again, it's contradicting individual freedom. What you may choose to do, save it forever, take it to the grave, whatever it may be, great. That's good for you. But don't apply that to others. I mean, again, it's a little murky because I'm never going to, as a freedom maximalist, you're never going to shame someone for saying something, right? If you want to say these things to other people, like, go for it. But I'm just not going to agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because ultimately it grounds out an individual freedom for me. So that's how I would look at that. But if you're asking me personally, I do think acquiring more and more Bitcoin throughout my life is something I will do. I don't think it's greedy at all. I think it actually, again, it serves your self-interest, but it also serves the collective interest to the extent you consider, the systematic violation of life, liberty, and property immoral and bad for the world. Bitcoin's literally you're taking savings, purchasing power out of that system and putting it into the system that can't be used to print new money to fund all that nonsense. Right. We just sent another $8 billion to, the U.S. just sent another $8 billion to Ukraine and to Israel. Where do you think that purchasing power comes from? It's everyone that's saving in dollars. Everyone's groceries and gas and all their other bills are becoming more expensive because they're being taxed through inflation to fund mass murder campaigns overseas. Okay? If you take purchasing power out of that system and put it in Bitcoin, you're boycotting all that bullshit. So, yeah, I that's how I like to look at it. It's like you can, through Bitcoin, take care of yourself and take care of the world at the same time.
And I'm glad you brought up the point of spending Bitcoin to fund your dreams, because we see, and this is another thing that we see, and there's another branch out of the can you have enough Bitcoin, is that we see some people are really stacking. They're really stacking to the bone. They don't want a chair and they're proud of it. But at some point, how do we balance the stacking sats, living for the future and being low time preference as we are as Bitcoiners versus living in the now, living in the present, and do use your financial resources to go after the things in the present moment, because we are constantly making that decisions all the time, and we see Bitcoiners maybe forego a wedding, like they don't take this vacation for their kids, or they they make these life choices that they think, oh, I'm using that money to save in Bitcoin, and that's gonna be good for me and for my family. Like, where do we draw the line as individuals? It's it's a subjective individually. Yes.
Yeah, like I have nothing prescriptive to say for all individuals that they need to do this, or it's like, but honestly, sure, maybe are people that are stacking to the bone, like you said, that don't own chairs, but I don't hang out with those people. Like, every Bitcoiner I know is doing pretty well. I've got chairs, they've got chairs. They typically have nice houses. They often have nice boats, cars. I don't see anyone like struggling. Now, but if that was your choice, right? If you chose to live the absolute ascetic lifestyle and just spend nothing and just stack, like, well, okay, then that means you valued doing that more than you valued buying the chairs or the cars or the boats.
So it comes down to the value then.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but again, it's like, and look, there's nuance here and whatever. It's like, yeah, sure, if you're not taking care of your kids or not sending them on a field trip, it's like maybe if you're the guy's friend, like have a talk with him. Like, hey man, I think you've stacked enough. Like let little Johnny go on the field trip, or whatever the thing is, but you're not doing something evil, right? He's not like,
right.
he's not, I mean, you might be stealing little Johnny's childhood a little bit, but you're not stealing from somebody. So, there's a like blurry lines here, but there's nothing hard and fast and prescriptive I can say that individuals need to do this until this point and then that. It's like, no, everyone needs to figure it out for themselves and decide what's best for them.
Right.
But in general, like these people that are stacking and selling all their chairs, like I see these, anonymous people saying stupid shit like that on Twitter. I don't see any of it in real life ever. So maybe I just don't hang out with them, or maybe they just don't exist, or maybe they're just online jokers. I'm not sure.
Right. I guess my point of going with this is that sometimes we don't see better in the moment. Sometimes we see, oh, now I work hard and like my parents, they worked hard their whole life and then they realize, okay, now I've retired and what now? Yeah. And I wish I did spend whatever time, however much to support things that.
Yeah, I actually, I'm glad you brought that back up because I actually view it that way. It's, you're asking something like, how do we balance our low time preference focus on the distant future with being in the here and now? And I've actually found in my own life, and I see in the lives of others, that it actually serves that. Like the more security you have into the future, the lower your time preferences become, right? You can actually think, well, I can do something today and I don't need to see the profits on it for 30 years or 50 years or whatever it is, right? Like you're a very long time horizon or low time preference investor, for instance, that actually frees you up to be a lot more in the here and now. It's like, well, I just wake up and like, I don't have to do anything today. I've got plenty of money that'll last me well into the future. What do I want to do today? That's an interesting question. Maybe I don't know yet. Been thinking about reading this book on fishing, whatever the activity, whatever that interests you, right? Could be anything. And you pick it up and you spend a few days reading the book because you don't need to be at a 9 to 5 because you've had a low time preference and you've invested for the future and you've secured your future financially, at least. No one can secure themselves from everything. And you've given yourself the liberty and the bandwidth to let your mind explore. And maybe you stumble across something you find interesting and you go, oh, bam, this is a business. I really want to build this fishing boat and whatever the thing is. So I don't think there's a trade-off necessarily. I actually think one serves the other. That the more we can have more certainty about the future. Look, the future is always uncertain and the end is always potentially near. But if you have, purchasing power in an extremely strong form of private property, then you have this assurance that, no matter what happens, more or less, my loved ones are provided for. I am provided for. I don't need to work. I can, whatever that version for you is, gives you a lot more freedom to be in the here and now and thinking about your next move, even if it's, a move in the here and now, but you're considering the longer term implications of that.
Right. Well, that's a really good point. And what you're saying is that when we have the security, financial security, we're actually become freer. Yeah, and that even puts more pressure on taking responsibility in our own life and deciding who we are, knowing who we are, knowing who we want to be, and now finally we have the tool and the sound money to enable us to go there. Yes. And when we think about it, time, our lifetime, the time we get to save from not having to be in the survival mode, in exchange for a roof, for food, then that's where we really start to live. And
you become more human, because when you're not in survival, like it's a high anxiety state, like how living paycheck to paycheck, right? One financial thing happens in your life and all of a sudden you are potentially, can't pay your rent or can't buy food or can't take care of your kids, whatever the thing is. Like, that's a very it's a pressure cooker of anxiety, right? It's very high time preference. And then you're also very much more likely to engage in barbaric behavior, right? When you get desperate, like, oh, well, couldn't feed the kids, so I had to steal whatever the thing was. And like that, the lowering of time preference unwinds all of that, right? It's reducing people's anxiety, it's giving them a firmer footing to just let their mind explore what it is they ultimately want. Now, I want to be careful here too, though, because the word freedom, this very, very tricky word, having that much financial wherewithal to be able to sit in a place and not work and, do whatever you like might actually come at a great cost, right? Yeah. You may have spent years running a business and, working 15-hour days and earning a bunch of gray hairs, like there can be a great sacrifice that's necessary, or even being in a place that you're, many billionaires that are very financially secure. Well, their days are packed. They're running small countries effectively. They got 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people hierarchies underneath them. There is a big cost that comes with that. It's not like I kind of painted this picture of someone that just had a bunch of Bitcoin and, was chilling. But most people tend to find the thing that they like to do when they're at that level, and they do it hard, And so I just wanted to balance that out, that it's not just...
Of course. And even if you have all the time in the world, that's in a way, that's where the real challenge comes from, because I guess it's even postmodern individuals, like in this generation, people have a difficult time dealing with boredom, have difficult time being alone. So that we have all these devices that we're hooked on and the social media at our fingertip, and those peer pressure that it's so easily accessed on a voluntary basis. Like we voluntarily go on these platforms and receive peer pressure. Yeah. So what if and then we fill our time with work, we fill our time with errands and things that we need to do in this world, and think, oh, I'm busy, I'm doing something. But what if all of these logistic burdens are removed? Now you have all the time. Some people will freak out because they don't know what to do with their time.
Yeah.
That's going to be another beast. And which is why I love to focus on the subjectivity and the personal transformations through the lens of Bitcoin, is how can we live a better life with Bitcoin? Now that we have Bitcoin, we have that get out of the way. How can we level up from there for our consciousness, for our family, for better relationships, and for more freedom and be more connected and loved? Yeah. That's going to be the next wave of important things Bitcoiners have to think about.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's well said. And this is the drum we're beating lately. BTC, be the change you wish to see in the world. Well, that is an act of free expression, right? Like maybe the two examples I just gave, right? Like a monk basically with a ton of Bitcoin that's just sitting around doing nothing. Maybe that's freedom to him.
Yeah.
Like I want to sit around and do nothing all the time and just sit on my stash.
Yeah.
But on the other end of the spectrum, maybe there's the hyper ambitious billionaire guy that's, wanting to just like push the world forward. Michael Saylor could for this. He wants to upgrade the world. No matter, it's like, well, that's freedom for him. He chose, this is his path. He wants to go down that and he wants to do this. Like, great. Also great for this guy that, he has the freedom to do that. So freedom can come in many different forms. It doesn't, there's not a template for it. So
everyone has to decide for themselves.
Exactly.
And that starts from knowing ourselves.
Yes.
And knowing why we're here for, right?
Yeah. Creating yourself, that everyone is their own personal masterpiece. Like you have to take artistic control, creative direction of your life and take it on the path that you see fit. And it's not, again, it's not purely rational. It's like you can just control this thing rationally. Has a lot to do with who you spend time with, has a lot to do with what culture you plug yourself into, has a lot to do with how you take care of your body, how you take care of your spirit, how you take care of your family and those people around you. So I think everyone has to ultimately just find their own path.
Yeah, totally.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, click here to find more just like it, and here to find our most recent episode. Also, make sure to like this video to help shine light on the corruption of money, and be sure to subscribe to this channel to stay connected.